I'm Richard Porter.
I'm Jonny Smith.
And this is Smith and Sniff, a podcast in which two friends talk about cars. And this week, that new Range Rover.
Oh, hey, listen. I know what I wanted to say to you. Adele. New Adele song.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Easy on me.
Yes.
Now, doesn't matter whether you like her or whether you don't. She's incredibly popular. It's had 123 million views in a fortnight.
Is that right?
Yeah. But the reason why I'm mentioning this on the podcast is because there's a car in the video. Easy on me, official video.
I gather. I haven't watched, but I gather. Yeah.
There's a motor, and I love the fact that it's not anything glamorous. I think, because there's not a clear shot of it, I think it's an E34 5 Series BMW.
This is what I was told, yes.
Yeah, you can see a... I haven't had a chance to say this to you. I can see like the back corner light, because it's towing one of those very small, you know what I mean, retired person that goes to the tip trailers. And,
is it? Well,
yeah.
I'll tell you, a listener called Anthony... I'm going to mispronounce your surname, Anthony, I'm sure of it. Boccino, I would say Boccino. But anyway, Anthony, Ant, he signs his email. He's sent us a message about this. Well, he actually sent us a message. He's asked if we could have Harry in for a podcast or an idle chat. He asked, would he play along or would it be an awkward environment? I tend to think, although he looks like a semi-serious man, he may occasionally get silly.
Oh, I think
silly. He says, yeah.
I think if we gave him a tumbler of Tia Maria, I think he'd be very jolly.
I think he's a half of Kahlua, and Harry would be as giddy as a lord.
Talking of that, actually, in the background, you might be able to hear some two-stroke annoyance. It's not actually Harry and his finally striking up his strimmer. It's a guy cutting some high hedges in my back garden, and I can't stop him because I've been trying to book him for about 2 months. So
you want to buy that guy's strimmer off him, though, because presumably if that's his job, he uses that strimmer constantly. So it's like buying an ex-police car. Yes, it's well used, but it's been constantly running, and that's actually quite good for the engine in a way.
It's really true. It has, and it sits at constant revs.
White ex-gardener strimmer, no sunroof. It's got a few holes in it where the radio used to be, but it's a good strimmer. Ex-police.
He holds it at a constant high rev, and the other thing which I've noticed,
I can hear it.
It's very long reach arm, which is why I got him to do it, because I can't get the reach on my hedge trimmer. This is a very boring conversation. I've quickly realised that, but yeah, what was that thing of Noel Gallagher's high reach hedge trimmers? That's his other band, because he's already broken up with the high revving.
It's Noel Gallagher's high lift cams, isn't it?
I thought it was Noel Gallagher's.
He's very lumpy low down, but God, when you get a few revs on him.
But what was it? Who was BDI? Is that Liam?
That's Liam.
That's Liam Gallagher. So
I always thought BDI sounds like it's something that a car maker would come up to denote that it's a direct injection petrol engine.
Oh, BDI, of course it would be.
Yeah, Benzina Direct Injection or something like that. You go, oh yeah, it's a Fiat BDI engine. Yeah,
I thought it'd be it's Liam Gallagher's Cosworth BDA, or the Ford BDA, and what was the other one? It was Noel's.
High-sided vehicles.
YBs. Noel was exclusively Cosworth YB, wasn't it? High-revving YBs versus the BDA, and it's just constant feuding. Ford mechanical feuding. Anyway, do watch
Adele.
Adele's
well,
video.
Just back to Anthony's email. He says, did you guys notice that in Adele's newest video she's driving an E34 5 Series?
Yeah.
Since it looks to be filmed here in the States, it's either a 525 or a 535i.
Yeah.
Good knowledge, Anthony. There's one scene where you can barely see the badge on the trunk lid. I wish the camera held for a second longer because I have to know.
Oh my gosh, this is what I've been doing, and I didn't even see that email.
Have you been furiously pausing the
I have.
Video?
I've been admiring Adele's very pretty bum chin, but I've also been trying desperately. I've also,
sometimes when I go back through these and I go, what am I going to call this week's podcast? And I'm just looking for a phrase that will do, and there's one already.
What, Noel Gallagher's
very pretty bum chin?
Noel Gallagher's high flying bum chins.
I'm just going to do a search just because I need to now slake my thirst for knowledge on this.
No,
one.
I'm going to say
What's it
this.
called? It's called Go Easy on the
Go
Gas
easy
or
on,
something.
go easy on me. It's all about hypermiling, but it's the I have to say the Adele song's a grower. But what's most important to me is I hope. Oh no, the hedge trimmer guy's got really close to the window. I really sincerely hope that Adele went, listen, I've got a lot of money because I've my albums have been exceptionally successful. I've been waiting for a while to release the right one. Why doesn't she buy the M5? Because that era of M5 is quite stealth, I think. And in the way the way this is shot with the sort of going to the tip trailer, you can't tell. And what were those alloys that look like hubcaps that are now quite infamous that nobody seemed to like at the time?
What on the E34?
Yeah. Do you remember them?
I don't know.
And they look like white wall. They look like white wall tyres, and awful hubcaps, and they're very rare alloys.
Okay. You see, I'm hoping for. What I've actually looked for is a behind the scenes.
You can't watch this while we're doing the podcast. It goes on a while.
No, I know.
There's a long intro.
Well, I know. See, now, I know you're right. Lots of people like Adele, and so you can't argue with that, I suppose. But when I was like, oh, she's got a new song coming out, I wonder what it's going to be. And I just go, oh, do one with drums on. Come on.
Oh, yeah, she's drumless.
She's drumless again. It's her and a piano, and probably lots of very expensive production you barely notice. But I was like, just do Rolling in the Deeps type stuff. I like
the session drumming in Rolling in the Deep was quite tight. Wasn't it?
Very tight.
Very tight.
Have you ever heard that expression about musicians in the pocket?
No, I've never heard that.
Yeah, it's a really weird one where they'll go, oh, their playing is in the pocket, and it just means it's like absolutely locked down tight.
Well, it sounds better than lit, which it just annoys me.
Yeah.
People saying stuff that's... Let me just... You're just encouraging arson.
Anyway, well, look, we could spend all day looking for Adele's
E34
BMW.
Listen, if Adele or anyone that knows Adele is listening, please tell me that she secretly just bought an M5 because she just wanted to go straight to the top of the tree.
Yeah,
and it's got those alloys, which I've forgotten the name of, which I'm sure a listener will know of.
I mean, it's possible that Adele has the world's largest collection of immaculate E34s. She's rich enough. She could corner the market.
Imagine if she just has a day on the internet like today, and in a day, using the power of some of her contacts, she amasses the largest collection of E34s, but within 24 hours. So in the next 24 hours, she's going to buy 50 M5s, and they're all going to be slightly different spec. They're all going to be really good. Yeah. They're all going to have provenance.
Like really early one with those finned alloys that were supposed to cool the brakes. Well, then a later 3.8 with those lovely sort of starfish alloys on it.
Well, those finned ones, I think, are the ones I'm thinking of that look like hubcaps. They don't look like alloys.
Yes. Yeah,
and you think they're really cheap, but they're actually not cheap. Yeah. And now they're
incredibly
rare.
expensive. I think they were they not magnesium in part or something? They were ridiculously expensive.
They're made from Adele's teeth, and they're actually incredibly hard to source now, as you can imagine.
Oh, what, Adele's teeth?
Well, Adele's teeth used to be a lot easier to buy. Now you just simply can't, because there's been many popular albums. And so, anyway,
well, there we go.
On to much more important things. I woke up this morning, and I'm rustling some papers because I woke up this morning and my daughter was reading a Harry Potter book, and it occurred to me that
This is the worst blues song I've ever heard.
I woke up this morning, daughter's reading a Harry Potter book, refuses to comb her hair, usual argument about breakfast, missed the train. No, well, I've never watched, I've never read a Harry Potter book, and I've never watched all of a Harry Potter. I feel like I'm the wrong audience. So I was going to set you a little challenge this morning, Richard.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if Harry Potter was aimed at a car audience, what would be the new names of all of the books? How's that? So I can't remember how many books there are. There's like 8 books.
Oh God, there's loads.
I
don't know.
So if I give you the name of the original book, you've got to
right. Harry
rename
Potter
it.
and the Philosopher's Stone is the only one I can remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, there was one. That's right. The Philosopher's.
Is that right?
Yeah, there is one. Or the Sorcerer's Stone, I think, that the Americans called it from memory. I think it got changed for the American market. So it's actually got two names. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan. I'm sure someone will shoot me down if that's incorrect. But yeah, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. So what's that going to be called?
You wanted to appeal to car fans instead?
Yeah, so this is car fanatic orientated Harry Potter now. And obviously there is a car in Harry Potter. We all know that.
There's a Ford Anglia.
There's a Ford Anglia. So maybe Harry Potter could be massively into his faults, but we don't know.
He just keeps doing spells to make his.
Oh, hang on a minute. Is it Harry
Focus RS Stage 3 tune?
Is it Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Moonstone Grey Cosworth?
Oh, yes.
Sapphire.
Yeah.
Would it be that, or would it just be
yeah.
Harry Potter and the Philosopher's GI Yaris? He got bored of all.
Well,
the
I was going to
Cosworths.
say, what about Harry Potter and the Philosopher's STI? Which I appreciate for a wider audience would sound a bit weird and rude, but I'm thinking from a car audience, they go, oh yeah, so he's got her. Well, what about if it was Harry Potter and the Philosopher's STI WRX?
I just like the ST because it's the beginning of Stone, but it's isn't
Harry
it?
Potter and the Philosopher's
And
ST.
it keeps it folds, doesn't it? And which fold would it be? I mean, it's not going to be a Mondeo.
Let's go.
Is
Let's
it?
go. No, go Focus. I think Focus.
ST 4-cylinder or 5?
ST 170. That was a nice car, first generation, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Nice
so
car.
would the Philosopher have gone?
Philosopher's ST 170.
Yeah, I love that. There we go. That's the
yeah.
name. Okay, next one. Harry Potter.
Sorted.
I like this one. Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. I think I've got an idea for this one.
The Float Chamber of Secrets. It's quite subtle, but car people would get it.
I like
wouldn't
that. I thought Harry Potter and the Hemispherical Combustion Chamber of Mopar, which is probably a little bit wordy.
Hemispherical combustion.
Well, I just thought, well, keeps it Hemi. And Harry Potter's very popular in the States.
Yeah.
So
no, that would go down well.
They love a bit of HP and the Hemis. Actually, that sounds like a really good beatnik kind of band, doesn't it? Harry Potter, HP and the Hemis.
HP and the Hemis. Yeah. I can hear them now.
Oh, it's very, very tinkly drumming. It's sort of a three-piece drum kit.
Yeah,
in fact, maybe
brushy.
two-piece.
I'm hearing brushy drumming. There's brushing for some reason. That's more of a jazz, isn't it? But well, I don't think you'll beat Hemispherical Combustion Chamber of Secrets or anything on that.
What about Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban? Or Azkaban.
Is that what it's called? Azkaban?
Azkaban. Is it?
Azkaban.
It's not Harry Potter imprisoned because of a driving ban.
No.
That's too long.
Hey, Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Mazda AZ1. That'll get car people going. Very K-car, obscure K-car reference.
That is very... Sorry, it's really tickled my throat, that has.
We shouldn't be doing this when you're still riddled with the pox, should we? It's just...
Not riddled. I'm not contagious anymore.
By the way, don't have a cough sweet this week, because I had so many complaints about you sucking a cough sweet during last week's podcast.
Tinkling one around on my teeth?
Tinkling one round, yes.
You can't win.
I should have dipped your mic during that bit.
So you can't win in this podcast world. Fickle.
Well, you can. Just don't make revolting noises whilst recording, I think, would be the headline. The request that came in from a few people.
Well, next time I'm going to suggest you relentless guffing, but not reference it.
Yeah. This week, Jonny eats a bowl of soup throughout the entire show.
Yeah.
No, go on. Give us one more Harry Potter title.
Oh, well, there's a couple. You'll find a good one. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire.
Well, what about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fiat Uno Fire?
The Goblet of Fiat.
The Goblet of Fiat Uno Fire, because the engine in those cars was called the fire engine, wasn't it? The fully integrated robotised engine.
Oh my gosh, yes. I like that.
And they were the Fiat Panda Fire.
I think yours wins I was going down the road of fire, and I thought, oh, what sort of very fiery that I always think of. I thought of Harry Potter and the Burnt Aventador Valance, which is probably a little bit long for a film title. I don't know.
Well, what about Harry Potter and the Goblet of Six-Wheeled Range Rover X Airport Fire Engine?
Oh, yeah. No, what are those really flat, wide, specific fire engines for airports?
No, those are tugs, aren't they?
Well, they do one with a cannon on the roof that fits about 12 men in.
Oh, I know what you mean. Yes, sorry, yes.
And they look like
they'd be too big for a road. There's a lot
like
of airport vehicles, though, that are sort of mutants that aren't allowed out of airports, are they? 'Cause they're too big.
But that's what I love about them. They look very international rescue, like they're not real.
Yes.
And because we don't see them outside of airports, that maybe they are all owned by Jeff Tracy. Nobody's ever.
They look like toys, don't they? Look like really cool toy fire engines, but real size.
I saw one for sale on someone's front lawn in Leicestershire about a year ago. Seriously, I kid you not. There was one of those on someone's
an
airport fire engine, so very wide and unnecessary, and it had a cannon on the roof, and it had a cut-out cereal box in the window which just says for sale. I tried to do a U-turn to take a photo, but it was quite a congested area. So there we go. That was interesting. Now this one, I think you're gonna do well on. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. The Order of the Phoenix. Couldn't tell you what happens in that.
The obvious one is Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix 4, who bought MG Rover.
Oh shit! Yeah, that's really good. That's really good.
Then it's I think I did that as a mock poster on Sniff Petrol years ago.
I like that. The Phoenix
Harry Potter
4
ends up living in South Birmingham and driving a company into the ground by accident.
That they would be my perfect idle chat to get the Phoenix 4 back together. I mean, who needs Led Zeppelin to do another concert when you can get those?
I'm going to reunite the Fab Four. Well, aren't two of them dead? No, I mean the guys who ran MG Rover for about 4 or 5 years before it all went to shit
and just sucked it dry.
Yeah.
Okay, I've put Harry Potter and the cancelled Order of the Pontiac Phoenix. Because I realised, well, it was a very crap car, and hence the cancelled order, made from 77 to 84. And the reason why the order was cancelled in my head is because they still were selling it with the 2.5 litre Iron Duke engine, which in a full-size American car would have been quite pitiful, I feel.
The Iron Duke was the 4-cylinder, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was the very strong but not very sophisticated Willis Jeep motor, I think.
And it was, because I always like the name of that engine. I always just go, it sounds magnificent, but I gather from what I know about it, it was a bit of a boat anchor. Maybe. I don't know, American listeners may now set us correct on this, but...
Well, imagine buying one in 1983, an Iron Duke engine, full-size Pontiac, to drive around in America with. I think it would be disappointing.
It was quite big for a 4, wasn't it? It was like a 2
and a half.
2.5.
I think it was 2.5.
But it made like 75 horsepower or something.
Oh yeah. Well, you look it up.
Classic American engine.
You Google Pontiac Phoenix, you'll know what it's about.
75 horsepower, but 209 pound-foot of torque. really, really lusty engine at 700 revs.
That's heavy plant. That is heavy plant spec.
Yeah, you can hear each combustion stroke happening at idle. Bumf.
Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. You'll do a good job of this. I know you will.
Ooh. I was going to say Harry.
What?
Harry Potter and the Half-Tracked. But I can't remember what Half-Tracked. Kubelwagens?
No. Yeah, there was an ex-German World War II. Wasn't it a half-track, half-motorbike? I think it might have been a BMW.
Yes. Oh, yes, with a sidecar.
Yeah, with a sidecar. So maybe that's your bag. Maybe.
Or Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Nissan Prince.
Oh, now.
Which was
okay, now we're talking.
Sort of Japanese limo, wasn't it? Well, Prince was a car company.
I'm going to go in with Harry Potter and the plug-in hybrid or half-electric NSU Prince.
Because What about Harry Potter and the half-restored prince?
Oh yeah. Well,
Got loads of exterior trim missing because it's quite hard to find these days.
And is there a subtitle underneath which says, yes, another unfinished project? So it is one of those ones. Yeah, he's been working on it for some time. Yes, he's put too much money into the wrong area of the project. Yes, he's giving up. Harry Potter and the half-restored,
my favourite,
and the half-restored NSE Prince.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, that's made me. Well, there's the Deathly Hallows, and then there's the Cursed Child. Don't know if you want to throw in any shade onto either of those.
The Cursed Child.
Yeah, I thought of Kurz, something along the Kurz system on that one.
Oh,
I don't. You could go a little bit Formula One tech there, couldn't you?
yeah.
I'm sure
Yeah.
Potter's massive. He's a big fan of George Russell.
Well, that electric MG that I drove not that long ago, the estate one, was it the MG5?
Yes.
Electric one has adjustable regen.
Yes.
But the button is labelled Kurz. It's quite cool.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
But yet nobody really calls it that in Britain.
No. I just
they?
went, that's all right. Every time I use that button, I think of Formula One. Well done, MG. That's quite clever, even though you're not in Formula One. But yeah, it's quite a nice
Do you know what?
button
That's
as well,
probably
quite
a
big,
closer
shiny.
connection to Formula One than most other road cars that are affiliated with Formula One, perhaps.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
okay, Harry Potter and the MG Kurz paddle. MG. Oh,
Hey, totally unrelated, but did you see the new Mercedes SL that they announced the other day?
I actually didn't. I missed it.
Oh. It's bizarre because I assumed it's now officially the Mercedes AMG SL. So it's, they're doing that on that side of things. And but it looks like a two-seater, and it's got a couple of little seats in the back like SLs always have.
So it's a 2+2 again?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't managed to find a photo where they show you how much legroom there isn't in the back seat. But, I think people just like those back seats to chuck stuff on as well, don't they?
Well, surely the size of it should be a 2+2 because it seems to be quite a lackluster design in so much as it's not really clever packaging. It's not exceptionally fast. It's perhaps no more comfortable than...
Well, that's where I think they've gone with this new one, is that they've decided to make it more spotty.
Okay.
And it looks more like a sort of, you can see bits of, what's it called? AMG GT, isn't it?
Yeah, well,
SLS,
what I was going to say, why don't they just do an AMG GT that's just pure Christopher Cross easy listening spec?
I don't
and
know,
then
'cause you
call
can
it
get
the
GT
SL
as a convertible car, but I guess that's the thing, because that's a two-seater. They've decided that. But it's like a totally new car. It's aluminium as well, which is,
bloody hell,
expensive and to do, I guess. But yeah, it looks more sporty on the outside, I would say, compared to some previous SLs.
It's got to be a loss leader. Because
it's weird they've done it in the first place, isn't it? Can you imagine?
No, other car companies would have killed the name off quietly. I mean, look, Volkswagen killed the Golf convertible. That was actually still selling. Like, people were still really buying it. Not as much as they were. Well, globally. I mean...
Really?
Yeah. But, like, they've just quietly killed it. And yet it was going for how many years? 40 years?
Well, they got in a right bugger's muddle with that, didn't they? Because then they brought out the EOS. They were sort of cannibalising themselves a little bit.
They did the EOS
had
and...
a metal roof, but even so,
and
it's a bit, either or.
Well, now you have to buy the convertible SUV crossover-y... I've actually forgotten the name of it. Is it T-Rock?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, isn't it?
So, I think I actually can't remember, but...
The T stands for the.
The Rock, so it's Dwayne.
It's the Rock, yeah.
It's the Volkswagen Dwayne convertible, which is fine for some markets.
Can you smell what the T-Rock is?
What was it? I was going to say... going back to Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix, it's just occurred to me that there was a car company called Phoenix, but it was sort of 1903 era.
Oh, right. I was going to say there was also Phoenix, which was Lee Noble's new company.
Oh.
That didn't seem to go anywhere.
Okay, so could we put that then, the cancelled Order of the Phoenix?
Harry, what's it called? The Order of the Phoenix?
The Order of the...
Yeah.
Harry Potter and the...
Yeah, Harry Potter and the still pending Order of the Phoenix, because nobody really knows what's going on. I feel very... I'm a bit... I don't know. I had to have my root canal done the other day, and I think I'm still a bit woozy. I don't feel like... Did
they do, what, stage 3?
It was, well...
Root canal?
It was all right, actually. I don't want to put anyone off having it, because it was better than I thought. The worst bit was just having to lie there for almost an hour with my mouth open. That's the most unpleasant bit.
But that's
they Novocained my face to bilio.
That's just a typical medium-length drive for you, though, isn't it?
Yeah, but I'm not a mouth-open driver.
You're not a grill sifter, are you?
No. Old Elfman Evans would have that would have been a walk in the park for him. They'd have gone, you can close your mouth now, Mr. Evans. No, I don't need to. I'll be fine. Thank you very much. Just going to leave it open. I actually can't remember how to close my mouth these days.
It's ram air to cool the back of
ram
the teeth.
Ram air, that's what it is. Yes.
To cool the rear gums, because obviously when you go hot into a corner and if you haven't cooled them down, you'll get gum fade. We all
bite fade.
Nobody wants bite fade.
Getting no purchase on this piece of toast. I've got
that's
tooth
awful.
fade.
Oh, yeah, I've just gone straight in with a Brayburn apple, and I just can't. I've got the clench that I need. I just need that. I need that clench. I was on Instagram, and there was a picture of an enormous. I know this is just a sort of thing that just weirdos enjoy. It's one of those pictures of a ship's crankshaft in a factory with two blokes with hard hats on, with clipboards next to it for scale, for human scale.
Was it like a quarter of a mile long?
It just says, this is the crankshaft for a Wortseiler Sulzer RT A96-C engine. Catchy. The largest reciprocating engine in the world, used in a large container ship. It's 1,810 litre engine. I'll just say that again. It's 1,810 litre engine, generates 108,920 horsepower at 102 RPM.
Sorry, hang on. Whoa. 108.
902. So basically 110,000 horsepower at 102 RPM.
102.
I love it. And it idles. Get this, Richard. You're going to love this. It idles at 22 RPM, which is almost 3 seconds per rotation. 3 seconds.
My God.
3 seconds. So just when you think, oh yeah, we should probably do a bit more plastic recycling or less single-use plastic, or maybe we shouldn't go on that cruise ship holiday. Well, bear in mind that thing is, when it's running, it's probably using crude oil, diesel in by the ton rather than by the litre.
Yeah, what's that really filthy stuff that boats run on out at sea?
It is filthy. It's crude.
It's tar, isn't it?
Yeah, it is dirt. Yeah. And just so anyone's interested, the said crankshaft weighs 300 tons, and that's just the crankshaft. So goodness knows what the rest of the engine weighs. Bloody hell! I know.
So I'd love to know what the bore is on that thing. How many cylinders does it say?
It doesn't. I'm going to find that out. But if anyone wants to know, it is the Wortseiler, as in Wart, SILA dash SULZER. Wortseiler Sulzer RT A96-C. If anyone wants to...
I'll do some research on this and stick the details up on the Patreon. We do the show notes every week for people who are patrons, so they can see a little bit of supplemental information and pictures and stuff relating to the podcast. I gather that quite a few people like to read the show notes before they listen to the podcast.
Oh, do they?
And then sort of try and guess what the merry hell is going on.
Oh, gosh, I'm not sure. God, that must be quite confusing.
It's almost like a sort of perverse reverse engineering of the mind, and then you find out what the answers are. But either way, yes, I was talking to someone the other day who basically said you should mention your Patreon more, and I said, I think you're probably right, we should.
Okay, ready? Patreon, All Days and Onions, Patreon. We have a Patreon page.
This is why your career in advertising didn't go very far, isn't it?
Patreon page.
Really? Coleman's mustard, okay. Coleman's mustard, Coleman.
Go on then, you do it in like a sort of like football chant.
What? Patreon.
Yeah, but
Coleman's Mustard.
like Smith and Sniff Patreon. You know, like as if you're pointing. You're in the gallery. You got a tub of Carling. You're pointing at the ref, probably. That's the sort of that's the kind of atmosphere I'm trying to conjure.
Do they shout Coleman's Mustard at Norwich Football Club?
I don't.
A local product.
I don't know.
I just feel like it's sort of the thing they might do. Or they should do. They could just shout local businesses. There aren't that many. Coleman's
Shout
Mustard,
Delia
Lotus,
Smith.
Delia Smith. Cookbooks. Just shouting.
Cookbooks.
It's like a sort of Norfolkian hacker. They just shout the names of local products and services.
Norfolkian hacker.
It's quite intimidating when you're up close to it.
Yeah.
Just a man absolutely screaming his lungs about Hunstanton Owl Sanctuary.
It's very. It can get dark. It can get very. It can get very, very dark very quickly. Yeah, the Sardine Museum in Great Yarmouth. You try shouting that aggressively at someone's face. Yeah.
Is there really a sardine museum?
I'm pretty sure there is. It's definitely to do with the pilchard or the sardine wars back in the olden days of industrial fishing. Back when there were lots of fish and no one was counting them. They were just taking them out of the ocean and
just
putting
taking
them in cans.
until there were none left and then leaving it a bit and going back to see if they'd replenished themselves.
Oh, there's no fish left. I'll tell you what, let's have a couple of breakfasts. I'll get 40 tabs. You fill up the trawler.
No, wait, hang on.
And we'll wait around.
No, he hasn't found tobacco yet. We're going to have to wait for that.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Actually, no, I might have got my timeline wrong there. Hang on. I don't know. I'm not very good at history. When did they find tobacco? I'm not sure.
I think they found it quite a long time ago, Richard.
They did find it quite a long time ago.
I think pre-trawlers. I'm gonna say.
I don't know. When's your trawler fleet? Like 18th century?
No, I'm
century?
talking about 1950s.
Oh,
right
you're talking about the
post-war,
okay.
World War II.
Oh, okay.
I think the term trawler is obviously a specific kind of boat. I know they obviously caught with nets prior to the term trawler. I feel like I'm in too deep now.
Because when did they invent really big nets?
Well, this is it, and mechanically operated kind of drag nets. And ting.
Well, they must. I mean, but I suppose Industrial Revolution probably mechanised things, didn't it? I don't know. Join us again on Smith and Sniff when we will
talk about mechanised trawling.
Two men blindly guessing at a significant aspects of history.
Surely that deserves a John Peel session. Mechanised trawling.
There's definitely two more from mechanised trawling later. Now, look, guys, listen. Hey, we should actually talk about a car because they finally announced the new Range Rover last week.
Oh yeah,
but we went to a secret preview of it a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
up at their Gaydon R&D centre in Warwickshire. And then we signed something that said, "Please don't talk about this until we've announced the car." So we didn't.
And then I was supposed to do like a proper video walk around in a real studio with it, but then my daughter threw some COVID at me, so I had to go into hiding and I couldn't film it, unfortunately. So this is the only chance I'm going to get to talk about it, I think. Yeah,
I'm assuming everyone has sort of seen it by now if they're interested.
Yeah,
like seen the car. I can only. I mean, obviously, style is personal and taste and those things.
I know.
But I really like the way it looks. I saw people sort of go, "Oh, it just looks like the old one," and it's like from the front it does, and it's probably the most cautious evolution of a Range Rover front end because if you think about every previous generation of Range Rover was a big change at the front. Like the second one got rectangular lights, and then the third one. Well, I suppose the third one was quite an evolution generally in that it just sort of looked more expensive and bigger, didn't it? And then the last generation brought that swept back nose.
Yeah.
And then this new one carries that on, but the headlights are actually sort of smaller, and the bonnet, that clamshell bonnet, that's one of the, they always say it's one of the sort of design features of the Range Rover, has got a lot shallower, and you don't realise how much shallower it's got until you see it.
Subtle clamshell, continuous belt line, falling roof
clamshell
line.
Also in session.
Well, yeah, rising sill line and tailored boat tail effect is what I'm.
But are you reading this?
And no D finisher, flush glazing.
No. Well, we'll get to that.
This is my poetry. No, this is my modern prose.
Is it? This is like some kind of crazy haiku from
I'll say it again, but slightly AMSR if you want. ASMR, AMSR, yeah, that.
AMR Racing.
Yes.
But they were doing, these are the Range Rover signifiers, and they were going falling roofline. And I was like, hang on a frigging minute. That only started with the last one. Don't start trying to claim that. If you look at the first 3 generations of Range Rover, the roofline doesn't fall away. No. They're really sort of square, in fact.
They are.
They just started doing it on the last one, which is one of the reasons why the last car was no good for us on making car telly shows.
Because it fell too much.
And we used to use 3rd-generation Range Rovers as tracking cars because you could get a camera person in the boot with a camera on some sort of small tripod legs, and put the lower tailgate up so they were sort of nicely, safely shut in. And then you got plenty of room for a nice big camera lens to get a little bit of range of movement and film tracking shots for cars. 4th-generation Range Rover came along because the roof dropped down a bit and the boot was a different shape. We couldn't get people in the boot anymore. It was completely knackered us. Had to shift to Discovery 4s.
Well, you guys, Top Gear, as was, pretty much made that the quiet industry standard tracking vehicle, really. On 5th Gear, we couldn't afford Range Rovers, so we often used to use Discoveries or sometimes Peugeot 3008s. But, yeah. But
we just used to rent the Range Rovers. We never bought a Range Rover. We just used to rent them from a company. But I mean, obviously, that is quite expensive to rent a Range Rover. We did a deal, I think. It
was about $4,000 a day, and then you realise you could have bought one after 4 days of filming. Oh shit!
So yeah, I don't buy this, but I do buy a clamshell bonnet, definitely an identifier as a Range Rover. And they went, we've made it much shallower, and then it means that the line of the edge of the clamshell and the front wing then carries on down the car, but they've made that gap, that shut line, much tighter, which means that the line running down the car can be much narrower and just looks more sort of accurate and crisp.
I think what they've done is, because like you were saying, from the front when they first tugged the cloth off the car, I didn't entirely notice what had been done, and I think it's a bit of a grower. Where you look longer at it, like maybe a piece of art or something, and when you look longer, you realise the subtleties come out at you, and you go, "Oh yeah, actually." And I suppose just ripping something up and starting it again doesn't mean it's going to be better. It just means it's going to be more radical, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's a good thing.
Well, also, I think a lot of car companies would rub sand in their own eyes to have something as recognisable as a Range Rover in their lineup. So it's in Land Rover's interests not to bugger it up by throwing away all that they've got. So I could see why you want that continuity, definitely, and there has been continuity across all the Range Rovers. But what's quite interesting is when we went to that presentation, which was in what was only about 2 years ago announced as the new Jaguar design studio, and now they've basically decided there's no demarcation, so the new Jaguar studio just becomes part of the overall design centre at Gaydon, which is quite awkward because out in the viewing yard they've got this massive walled-in viewing yard outside that had a big Jaguar logo on the wall, and you can still see where they've peeled it off. But out in that viewing yard they'd got the new car nose to nose with the outgoing car, and that was quite a clever move on their part, because when you saw them together, suddenly the old car, which I still think is a tremendously handsome thing, looked a bit fussy and dated. And you realise how much work they have actually done. Yes, it does from the front. It looks like the old one, or it's reminiscent of it. But the more you look at it, you go, actually, no. It's all kind of tidied up. It's like the way that the Evoque, like the current Evoque, looks like the old Evoque. But you see them together, and the old one suddenly looks a bit busy and a bit fussy, and the new one looks more expensive and cleaner.
Well, weirdly, I wasn't a massive fan of the last Range Rover aesthetically.
You're not?
No,
really?
No.
I think it's aged beautifully. I really like it.
I think it probably has aged well. I can't get my head around the radiator stuck on the door, which just irritated me every time I saw it. It just made me want to mutter.
Yeah, I would have that coloured in if I had been in the position to order a new one. But that's the thing with a new Range Rover. There's that feature on the door now, and they're not pretending it's a grille.
No.
But as far as I can work out, you cannot have it coloured in. It has to be some kind of contrast thing.
Nothing that a body shop can't help you with.
Well, exactly, yeah. Or a bit of that.
That's right. And the back end is probably the the more radical / divisive part of the new Range Rover, and I really like it. I think. I mean, I know there's a lot of innovation with the tailgate, the way the tailgate comes down, and the seating arrangement to make that more of a feature. But I love the fact that the lights are like thin vertical stacks that are sort of hidden when they're not on. There is a whiff. I said when I was there, didn't I? I think there's a whiff of Cadillac about it, but in a good way. Good Cadillac, not bad Cadillac.
Yeah, you spotted Cadillac because vertical lights like that, sort of thin vertical lights, are very... Cadillacs have had those since, the 60s, 70s, certainly.
Oh, yeah, but earlier,
I thought, it's what's odd about that back end, which I like as well, but it's got a sort of vestigial boot lid almost. You know, there's more of an arse poking out than there has been on previous cars, and that reminded me of all things, that Ford O21C concept from a few years ago that, what's his name, Mark Newson did for Ford. It's just got that sort of...
O21C.
It's just a tiny little like Kardashian bum bit pokes out, and then those very thin lights.
It is convex, isn't it? Ever so slightly.
But then those lights are really tricksy, because to get them as thin as they are and still as legal, legal brightness and all that. Did you hear this bit when someone, I can't remember what someone was telling me.
The LEDs are pointing inwards, not outwards. Is that right?
The LEDs point forwards basically, but then there are reflectors. They hit reflectors, and that reflects the light then backwards through the outer lenses of the lamps.
So you don't see the direct LED, you see the reflection of.
Yeah, and that was done to get the brightness, but also for packaging reasons, because they're quite hard to package. So, then the indicators are actually in the horizontal strip that's on the boot lid itself. And they're hidden till lit, unless you buy it in America, because Americans are allowed to have red flashing indicators that are basically the brake lights that also flash.
That's right.
Baffles me.
Oh, it's the constant
so if you buy one in America,
battle with an old classic American car here.
Yeah, because new American cars, you have to sort of hack the multiplex wiring, don't you, to fix it. But yeah, if you buy one of these new Range Rovers in America, you don't have the separate indicators in the horizontal blacked in bit. You just have those verticals, and they are brake lights and nighttime, rear lights, and they also flash to be your indicators, so it's sort of one-stop shop. But yeah, I asked one of the designers and I asked one of the engineers what was the hardest part of that car, or what was the biggest battle to get it the way you wanted it, and they both said it was the back end.
Yeah,
because you've got to package those tricksy lights, and then that tailgate, because one of them explained it to me. He said, like, you think it's just a flap and it folds down, that bottom tailgate, and it's not, because it's convex.
Yeah.
It actually sort of has to do a movement out and down, and you want it to then maintain a flush floor to the rest of the boot. And now they've got this seat that integrates into it.
The seat's neat.
And it's got to be powered as well now, because the last one had a powered tailgate. It's like, as a piece of engineering. And then the whole boot on the long wheelbase one has got to be capable of packaging the extra seats, because for the first time it's a 7-seater as an option.
I was going to say that, and I think that's so. I'm so pleased about that. I always thought that was a bit of a mistake. I know they were trying to differentiate it between Discovery and that kind of thing, but at the same time, like 7 seats should be just an option that you can always go for. That was led by the American market, apparently, wasn't it?
Apparently so, yeah. Because if you think like those sort of people with big families, or who just want lots of space, which Americans always seem to, then it's like you might have had to default to some kind of Escalade or something.
Oh gosh,
or Mercedes. I bet a Mercedes GLS would have been up there. And now
I've heard GLS have brought out a new album.
Yeah,
they've had they've got a comeback album,
quite ballady.
Everybody in the club. Yeah.
So yeah, I was kind of I like the exterior of the car, and I think, but then you mentioned the D pillar.
Yeah,
it was always. I mean, again, there was always a signifier, the Range Rover, and it was original car. It was black vinyl. Well, actually, it wasn't. It was body coloured, and they realised that you could see the ripples in the aluminium on it, so they put black vinyl over it as a quick fix to cover it.
I love that. That's so.
And it became a design feature.
It did,
and that's carried on, and now there is no sort of separate visible D pillar. It's just glass right to the back.
Yeah.
With black underneath it. All the cars we saw at that preview had the privacy glass, and I assume they just made it standard because for some reason everyone wants it, even though I personally think it's awful. But a lot of people don't. They like it.
Yep.
But no, privacy glass is still optional. But if you look, the third window, the window by the boot, it's actually quite small. There's a lot of blacking in around it. And I wonder what it's going to look like without privacy glass.
Yeah.
If it'll look weird. It'll look like you've got sort of porthole at the back. I'm not sure. And whether it will sort of spoil the effect a bit. It's one of the bits of design that back window I'm not sure about for two reasons. That, and also, when I was looking at it compared to the old car, they've gone so minimalist on the new car. They've tried to take away bits of trim wherever they can. So, like every other car pretty much that I can think of, at the bottom of the windows on the doors, there's a trim strip.
That's
which
right.
is your weather strip that seals
Stops
so that water doesn't get in.
Algae and moss and leaves.
That new Range Rover doesn't have it. The glass is just sitting against the metalwork, and the weather strip and the weather sealing is inside the door somehow.
I know.
This is some new engineering.
It is.
They
have cleaned it up almost obsessively.
And like the way that the roof joins the body side again, hidden join there, so that's all smooth and sleek again, just sort of minimalism. But the minimalism's gone too far for me on that back window, because if you look at the current car and most other cars, the top of the door, the top of the window frame on the door, is still a sort of visible strip, and on the old Range Rover, there's a piece of trim runs across the third side window, the boot window, that matches that, so you get a consistent line down. They've got rid of it on the new car, but from some angles that makes it look like you've ordered the van version. It just looks like it's got a panelled in back. With privacy glass on a dark car, it looks like it's panelled in, and I sort of feel like just a little bit of trim would have helped.
It's almost like you're an
that.
owner of previous Range Rovers. The detail that you're studying.
It's almost like I've spent a lot of time looking at Range Rovers.
Although I have to say, kudos for the precision on the front grille, the disguised radars and sensors, and the fact that the normal Range Rover has a grille shape, a sort of egg crate grille, which really reminds me of a Rover P6 V8 Series 2. And that pleases me massively. Most people won't care or know, but I dig that because I love the Series 2 P6 V8. And then the higher ranking car gets these sort of 2-bar lower grille intakes, which I actually think look cheaper than the entry level ones, but I don't know. That's just me.
Well, here's the thing. So the base model, in inverted commas, it starts at 94 and a bit grand. It's basically 95 grand.
So base model
is as cheap as it goes. Base model in the old car was 83 in this country, so they've made quite a leap. But I think they'd probably argue, well, it's got more stuff on it. Every Range Rover comes with 4-wheel steering now. Yeah, so
that is something I'm looking forward to playing with, because it's apparently transforms the sort of city drivability. Not that it's really an appropriate city car, although the person I'm talking to on the podcast has got one and lives in a city. But
that it's actually a tiny bit narrower than the old car across the mirrors. I think it's because the mirrors are narrower. That's why. It's not got wider, put it that way, but it has got longer. So yeah, and then of course the long wheelbase one is absolutely mahoosive.
I wonder if this is going to start, and I would love it to start a trend of cars actually getting smaller but no less roomy inside, because it's all possible.
Well, it has got more roomy, hasn't it? Because the wheelbase has grown a bit. So
yeah,
so it's more room in the back.
Also, the third row of seats, I'm really pleased they don't seem to be token. They were saying a 90 percentile 90 percentile adult can fit in the back. It's got 50mm more knee room in the middle seat when no one is in.
Did you sit in those back rows?
No, I didn't get chance. I was too busy perving over the sort of picnic tailgate thing.
Yeah. I got in the back of the 7-seater and my head touched the roof, but I'm 6'3". I was sitting next to someone who's about 5'9", and he had loads of room.
Okay.
It's not bad, and also I could get in and out with reasonable dignity, even with my dicky knee. So I'd say that's quite useful as well. Kids will have no problem, unless they're my son getting out of the back of my 911 the other day when he got his foot caught on the seatbelt and did a massive face plant onto the pavement. Got a big nosebleed,
and now refuses to go near your car.
No, I've coaxed him back in again, but no, he gets out in a very cautious way now. And fair enough.
Big shout out to the Kavadrak crew as well. Just need to say that while we're talking about the new Range Rover.
Oh yes,
I know. They see Land Rover, to their credit, were quite early on the kind of non-leather prestige textile option, and I feel like
they kicked it off with the Velar, didn't they?
They kicked it off with the Velar, and I liked it. I thought it was really smart, but I know it was an expensive option. I think it probably didn't get the marketing that it deserved. But big shout out to Kavardrak crew, 30% wool, 70% polyester, PVC free, with 99% of the solvents recaptured during the process. So
Are they a Danish company? Is that right?
I think so, but it's. Am I right? Some of the parts of it are made in Britain. Is it the British wool? I can't remember, but I know that.
Oh, there is wool, isn't there? Yeah.
There's a good percentage of wool in it, and I know. Well, all I know is that it feels better than, to me. It looks special.
Yes,
it feels better
like
than leather.
It's
it
nice.
Moves the game on from the sort of leather boredom, even though leather in that car is probably very high quality. And there's
different grades of it as well, isn't it? But yeah,
the aniline top spec leather, which is wonderful, but I'm just sort of over it. I just want a slightly different textile. So,
they told me there was a lady from Colour and Trim and the interior department who said it's almost furniture grade, which I was a bit like, why is it just not furniture grade? But car leather has to be so hard wearing and meet all different these sort of regs that it's a complicated thing, but. Someone else said, hang on a minute, if you're offering wool, then so that's not going to appeal to vegans. Okay. And she said, well, no car interior is vegan because there's a lot of glue in there. And I hadn't really thought about that. But then it's like, Polestar are claiming a vegan interior, aren't they? But I wonder if they're... Are they not using any glue?
They're not. No, they're going for a kind of late 80s, early 90s headlining, which, as you know, after about 5 years of ownership, starts to drape down like a stage curtain onto the people in the car. Is it Montego / Range Rover P38?
Oh, Montegos. All British cars of the 70s and 80s do that, don't they?
So what they did is, it's like when you lick a postage stamp before putting it on an envelope. They just used to liberally lick the roof of the car and then stick the headline up and went, oh, it'll be fine for at least 2 years. Then once the warranty's out, you get a little bit of drape coming down from one of the corners. And then you realise one day, usually when you're in quite a frantic driving situation, the entire headliner just comes and wraps you like a shit Halloween ghost. And then you end up writing your car off because you get kidnapped by your own headlining. Which is, again, probably a peel session. But
it's like the old TVR PR man told me once. He took a customer out for a test drive in a Cerbera, I guess, because it was a hard roof car. And during the test drive, the headlining fell down, which was dangerous, but also embarrassing for him because they managed to stop safely and then sort of got the headlining out of the way to reveal that on the roof panel underneath there was an enormous cock and balls drawn.
No, you're joking. What, the glue had been painted on in a dick shape? Or?
I don't know. I think the people who laid up the fiberglass used to leave little
drawings
of notes for their colleagues, knowing that they'd be covered by trim. But yeah, he said you can peel back the boot carpet, a lot of TVRs, and you'll find all manner of smuts back there.
That's just amazing. Yeah, gosh, that's probably tickled me.
Anyway, new Range. What else is interesting about the new Range Rover? I mean, it's big, it's brand new. One of the engineers said their initial thought was, well, we'll just take the old one and we'll redo it. Use the understructure and just redo. But they didn't for two reasons. First of all, they can't fit the batteries in the old structure, which they need for the PHEV and the eventual EV one, and also because they wanted greater body stiffness, and it's now 50% stiffer than the last one.
I know.
Which is good for refinement.
Okay, I would like to finish the Range Rover chat with the plug-in hybrid. The PHEV is impressive. 62 miles, I think it is, electric only, which is damn useful for a huge amount of journeys. So I'm impressed that they brought that out straight away. I'm a bit disappointed that you got to wait for 2 years.
It's sort of not.
What, not straight away?
If you order one right now and you want it as soon as possible, you'll have to have just the regular petrol or diesel. The PHEV will be following along next year.
I'll have to order a pilchard catching trawler instead. That's a real shame.
But it is coming. The EV is 2024.
Yeah, which I just think is too far away.
But they keep sort of whispering about how it might be earlier. But basically, what I've heard on the grapevine is that they had to start again on that because their initial plan was not right. And so it's been delayed because they've had to sort of have a rethink.
I wonder if the delay...
And now they're rushing to get it out as fast as possible.
Yeah, well...
That's the rumour.
I would have liked a full EV version to be available from launch, really, what with the climate of... Rivian, who are imminently going to be launching a pretty impressive SUV similar size car. But hey, I think that's really good. And also, not the most important aspect to the Range Rover, but the elevating trinket table inside that rises like Tracy Island launch pad is just amazing. And even if you don't like the rest of the car and you never want to buy one, I'm not a Range Rover driver really. The elevating trinket table, really, I got a bit of a semi when I saw that one. I thought that was absolutely storming. Bloody amazing.
Well, this is an old record box. It's elevated trinkets.
It's really, really good. It's like a business class flight table with very
snazzy.
Good movement.
It is definitely snazzy. Do you know, talking of the electric one though, which will be along at some point, but if you look at the life cycle of, the last car was 10 years, so this one you assume will be the same, which means that in the UK and several other places, that new Range Rover will end its life as an electric car.
Yeah.
Which is quite interesting.
I think it's really interesting because look, the Merc have announced they're going to be doing an electric G-Wag, which will be... It's just great because if you like that kind of size and shape of car and you refuse to deviate from that that template, a full EV one with a ton of torque and quiet cruisability is just going to be great. I know people are going to go, I want the AMG version with the loud side pipes. Well, unfortunately, that means you're a veiny prong, so I'm not really interested.
Yeah, I think for G-Wagon people who like to roar about being pricks, that might be a problem. But Range Rovers, the quieter and more torquey a Range Rover is, the nicer it is often.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I think it'll work fine in a Range Rover. And it's funny because I was looking at it when we were at that preview and I was thinking, it's a nice looking car, but it is definitely quite in your face. It's big. You can bling it up to the max if you have that SV spec.
Yes.
Even the base model, because I've been playing on the configurator, if you go with they do a lovely green, and you could have the black pack, so all the exterior chrome work is blacked in, and it looks quite subtle then. But I mean, it's a relative thing. It is still a big old pair of bollocks being slapped in your face, that car, basically.
It has. I guess it has.
Is it going to get very quickly out of step with the world? Is it going to look out of step? And then I was talking to a Land Rover dealer of my acquaintance, and he said, basically, our customers don't give a shit.
Yep. I'm
sure it'll be fine.
It's sad, but maybe they've got a half-size version in reserve that they'll just put that out if the world crumbles. And well, they were supposed
to be doing a bespoke electric-only Range Rover,
yeah,
which was the sister car to that Jag XJ that got killed. And when the XJ got killed, the Range Rover went with it. And I was talking to someone who worked on it who said that it was a really nice-looking car. It would have been quite good, but it's gone. So that's that. But yeah, I mean, so
they've
there's a few other little bits and pieces I put in my notes. One of the things is the first Range Rover that's not permanent four-wheel drive. It'll just sit and run in rear-wheel drive for efficiency's sake.
Oh, that's
it doesn't
nice.
Need to be
I like it if
drive.
The systems all fail when I'm going across a particularly rutty, muddy terrain situation with my 23-inch wheels, which are no heavier than the 22s.
Is that right?
Yeah, apparently.
Good fact. The base wheels in the UK are 21s, for fuck's sake.
They love
23s are optional. All the press car pictures are all 23s in those.
I don't know, and I'm not even an OCD person at all, but I don't like odd numbered alloy wheel diameters. They annoy me. Do you know what I mean? It's like I don't want 23s because that's an odd number that just sounds odd. I'd rather have 22s or 24s.
Well, you can have 22s. It's okay. Don't worry.
So I just because it's
I
always
think in
Rolls
some markets
that went.
You can have 20s as well.
Rolls always have 21s, don't they? They always went with the 21 thing.
And they seemed, when they announced that, it seemed like, oh my God, they've put cartwheels on it.
Yeah.
And here we are now with Range Rovers on 23s. Where does this end?
I did find myself looking at smaller alloy wheel. I was looking at when they revealed the Range Rover, when Jerry McGovern was doing his little kind of chit-chat around it.
His hysterically terrible talk to all of us.
It was a little stiff.
It was just, I mean, I don't know. There are people from car companies who are seamlessly professional and slick when they talk to the press, and Jerry McGovern is not one of those people. There are car company people who are quite likeable as well, and
I think Jerry McGovern secretly wants to just drive around in a Dacia Spring, but he just can't tell anyone. Because
wearing tracky bottoms.
It would ruin the sort of luxury lined lifestyle.
No, That's one thing that reminded me, given that sort of, there's all that very beautiful, and fair play to McGovern and his team, they have done a great job on that. I think it is a good bit of design. It's really, really nicely done. And it's so sort of unlike anything else because there's so little to it, where everyone else seems to be putting extra bits and details and lines and shit all over their styling. And they've gone, no, take it all off.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look cheap or basic or stark. It just looks sort of nice and simple.
Big shout out to Jez, Finbar, Nick and Nick. Involved in all of
But when we went outside to look at that other car they've got parked nose to nose with the old one, and do you remember you and me both noticed that it got what looked like sort of parking sensors all along the bottoms of the doors.
Yeah.
And we got inside and it's got buttons, and we realised it's got self-opening and closing doors, and the sensors are there to make sure that it doesn't wallop into something. And so I gather, because I mentioned this to someone, I went, you haven't really talked about something. Oh, we're not talking about it yet because it's not available yet. But the Range Rover will at some point have these self-opening doors. So you walk up to the car, the driver's door will swing open. When you get in, you put your foot on the brake to start it, and the door automatically closes for you. It's quite swishy. I'm not sure. I mean, how lazy do you need to be? But it's still quite a tricksy bit of thing. But it's not. I looked on the spec sheet when they announced the car, and it's not even an option yet. So that's coming at some point. There's a lot of bits still to come on that car.
There is, and all I hope is that Range Rover have sorted reliability. They've put that at the top of their notebook list in the new, because it's all well and good having teeny tiny shut lines and crisp finishes and shapes and surfaces, and a lovely seat that I can eat my egg and cress sandwiches on the tailgate. But if it has 27 recalls a year and it just doesn't work properly, I'm kind of out, really. Yeah. I'm afraid.
There are a mind-boggling number of electronic modules in that car. Yeah. The electrical system is derived from the one in the new Defender.
Okay.
So it's got the over-the-air updates with a twist, because those two fins on the roof are there partly because, unlike the Defender, the new Range Rover can receive over-the-air updates without interrupting its other connectivity features. So you can be sitting inside on the onboard Wi-Fi watching YouTube, and the car can be over-the-air updating itself, and the two won't clash. The Defender can't do that. It has to shut down other things while it updates.
Tesla has the kind of open fire screensaver on the huge tablet on the dash.
Yeah.
Do you think the Range Rover one will have that, but you'll just see a hand come in and they'll just sprinkle £20 notes onto the fire?
It's the depreciation.
To remind you, it's the sort of smug depreciation screensaver of like, look, I know, but I don't care, which is why I've bought 3 Range Rovers in the past. I still don't care. Yeah. I'm a mug and I don't care.
But that's, I mean, their customer retention is extraordinary, considering that they are famously not the most dependable cars in the world, and the glitches. And I'm not going to say anything about my Range Rover because I don't want to jinx it, but I've had no problems recently. That's it. Now it'll explode. But yeah, they do need to make sure that thing actually works, because they're pushing their luck if they don't. It's that, there is so much choice out there, but nothing has the feel and the prestige of a Range Rover. And I think even things like Bentegas and stuff don't feel like Range Rovers. There's nothing. The Queen has a Range Rover, but so does your local scrap metal dealer and your local purveyor of illicit substances, and one of the people doing this podcast. It's a very broad spectrum of customers that car attracts, and because it is unique.
There's
in
now
the same way.
Now as queer as folk.
Aye. We should wrap this up. I'll leave you with one fact which really scrambled my brain, because it's a big old unit, that new car, but it has the same coefficient of drag as the original Aero Audi 100.
Bloody hell.
That they made a terrible fuss over. It had little stickers in the side windows saying CD 0.30. Well, that's the drag coefficient of the new Range Rover.
Bloody hell.
I mean, obviously, the Range Rover's frontal area is bigger than the Audi's. Let's not get bogged down in that now.
I will leave you with the fact that if you want to leave a comment about this podcast, you can, and we welcome it. Apparently you can put a star rating down, so can you give us a nice mark, and then I don't know, then we get a stroke on the back or something.
There's a sign that used to be in a hairdresser I used to go to that said, it used to say, if you don't like your haircut, tell us. If you like your haircut, tell others.
Oh.
And it's sort of the same would apply to this podcast, I say.
But if you just had your haircut and you went, I don't like it, they go, come back to us in 10 weeks.
Yeah, I'm afraid we can't stick it back on now.
It's like, well, hang on a minute, I look like Pat Sharp from the Funhouse. It's like, well, it's okay. We're a bit busy now.
I wanted to look like Gary Davis from the 80s. You've got it wrong. Anyway. Right, well, we've got to wrap this up, but before we go, there's 3 things I've got to tell you. The first one is that this Saturday, the 6th of November, this very Saturday, if you're listening to this week, it's the Late Break Show Live in Manchester.
Yeah.
He'll be there, I'll be there. Colin Furze off the YouTubes will be there.
Yes.
And we'll be doing Q&A, we'll be doing a live pub quiz, we'll be doing a live idle chat with Colin. There'll be loads of different cars there. I'm going to bring my old Land Rover up. And
we've got some special stuff. Everything from the DB5 Junior No Time to Die spec to the Ineos Grenadier to the Bentley Blower Zero, brand new old 1929 continuation car, and everything in between. Automotively eclectic.
It is eclectic. It's the very definition of eclectic. It's in what used to be called the GMEX Centre in Manchester, the old station. You'll know it if you're local.
Yeah.
It's blimmin' massive, and we're going to be in there shouting, "Hello, Manchester." Yeah. Please come along. Tickets are on sale. Are you doing walk-ins? Is that right?
We are doing yes, you can walk in, or you can just go to thelatebreakshow.com/Manchester. We're trying to get the Smiths, the Stone Roses, Sean Ryder, as many
808 State,
as many Mancunian music acts as possible to just call in. So don't be afraid if you're listening.
Come on down, please.
Yeah.
We're there, and one of the things we do at these shows is we just wander about and we talk to people and we sign stuff, and we'll, as going on the basis of the Kent show, we'll draw a rude drawing of something if you really want us to. But yeah, we're around all day, we're there to chat, and then we'll do a bit of rubbish on stage, and there'll be loads of nice cars to look at. Can't say fairer than that.
Yes.
The second thing I have to tell you is I've got a new book out. It's called Boring Car Trivia 3. You know the drill by now, but it's got lots of stuff in it, more than the previous 2 books. It's packed with dull facts. And there'll be copies available at Late Break Show Live, actually, and if you come and ask me, I'll sign it or write something offensive.
Oh, yeah. And there will be Smith & Sniff merchandise.
And Smith & Sniff merch. We have merch as well, but there'll be that, and Late Break merch, and all sorts of everything there, you know. We're just hawking it like cheap market sellers. We're basically trying to recreate the vibe of Albion Market, the Manchester set soap opera from the 80s. There's the references, folks. And the third thing I've got to tell you is last week I said that in Psycho, they ran cold water through the shower at the right moment to get a shocked reaction from the actress Janet Leigh. Well, I just said that off the top of my head because I thought it was true, because it related to something else we've been talking about. That I then subsequently checked it. It turns out that's bollocks. She's gone on record as saying that didn't happen. The water was perfectly warm. Thank you very much.
Oh, so she was acting.
She was just using acting.
Okay, amazing.
There we go.
Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you ever so much for listening. We will the next podcast we'll be recording probably in a hotel room in Manchester after the Late Break Show Live, so between then and now hopefully we'll have seen a few of you in person, but until then, thank you for listening. Goodbye.
Thank you. Goodbye. I've really got to go, Rich. We need to do this quick.